So after many hours, guess who finally showed up? If I get fired over this, I am blaming it on you.
Hey guys, RanterInShades here, because that's my first to memorize vlog style. I am in Florida right now making some visits, and one of those visits was with this boy.
Immolation.
Yep, I'm AtticusTheDeathMetaller. He is in the death metal bungalow. And oh boy, there was a little bit of backstory on how he came to my area.
Yeah, it's not really important. It's a long, painful story where I learned a very hard truth about how terrible electric cars are, but that's neither here nor there. That's not what this video is about.
And it costed over 3.5 hours of my sleep.
So anyway, this is an idea I've had for a video for a long time, but I really wanted to make the video with someone so I could have someone to bounce off of, given what this material is. So, what is this material? It is a list of the top 100 metal vocalists of all time, published in Hit Parader here in November of 2006. You may be asking yourself, like, why? Well, some backstory of how I came upon this. So, question for you, Atticus. Do you know the website Sporkle?
No, not at all.
Sporkle is a site where you can create and publish fun little quizzes and trivia and whatnot. And back when I was in high school, this became a source of mine for finding out about various bands to look into. I found this one quiz about the top 100 metal vocalists, and this quiz was one of those ones where the answers get shuffled. So the ordering was just really out of whack, and I was confused as to why people were in certain spots on the list. And when I found out what this list was, I was like, this is maybe the stupidest list I've ever seen. And there are like a few main flaws about this that I'll get into before we actually look at this thing. The first flaw is, given that this was published in 2006, this list panders pretty hard. There are a lot of nu metal vocalists on here. Not that there's anything wrong with having nu metal vocalists on here.
Not at all.
But they're from bands that you would not expect to see on a list like this. And since this is 2006, they didn't even have enough time to establish themselves, establish their credibility to become one of the greatest of all time. With that in mind as well, there are a bunch of vocalists that are left off that obviously we can talk about later. I'm probably going to have a montage of my favorite metal vocalists that weren't included on this. So that's problem number 2. Problem number 3, though, is there are a bunch of singers on here from bands that no one even calls metal. And I know what you're thinking. Wait a second, Shades. Aren't you the guy that called out metal elitists? Why are you saying that? I'm not even coming from that perspective. Yeah, there are a bunch of glam vocalists on here too. That's not the problem. But there are bands that no one in their right mind considers metal, and you will see that once we get into this.
I am in a world of shit already.
Yeah, so he's going to be seeing this for the first time. I actually ordered the magazine that this was published in just so I could see what they had to say about them. I haven't read anything of what they said yet, so that's going to be my first reaction as well. So with that in mind, let's go into this. So where does this start on?
Oh, dude, so many good releases back then.
Okay, here we go. So, number 100, Ray Gillen. So, do you know who Ray Gillen is?
No clue.
Ray Gillen was a one-time Black Sabbath singer in the 80s who, after he left, formed a band with Jakey Lee of Ozzy Osbourne called Badlands. They're a band that I featured as an honorable mention in the most viewed video on my channel. They're very Led Zeppelin sounding, really good, really underrated. A large part of what made the 2 albums that they made so great was Ray Gillen's performance on there. So what do they say? He was handsome, he was talented, He was seemingly on the verge of becoming a superstar. Yes, Ray Gillen was a guy who apparently had it all going his way. He enjoyed his first taste of success in the late 80s when Tony Iommi hand-selected him to become one of the Revolving Door frontman for a late-stage incarnation of Black Sabbath before their reformation with Ozzy. He then rose to the pinnacle of his fame when he joined ex-Ozzy guitarist Jakey Lee to form Badlands, one of the most exciting, though generally overlooked, hard rock bands of the early 90s. A tragic illness a short while later robbed both Gillen of his rock and roll dreams and the music world of a truly special talent. And that's true. In 93, I believe, was when he passed away of AIDS, so may God rest his soul. 99, Kevin DuBrow of Quiet Riot. I'm surprised to see him this low on here, because if you listen to the songs on Metal Health, dude has pipes.
I'm familiar with Quiet Riot. Oh yeah, I only know if it's like, come on, hear the noise.
Come on, feel the noise.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But even on that song, like, I was obsessed with that song when I was in like 8th grade. His performance on there is so cool.
Great.
Oh, how we've picked on Kevin DuBrow over the last 25 years. We've cited his alarming lack of hair, pre-weave of course, and his apparent lack of talent, excuse me. But despite it all, Quiet Riot's wild-eyed, leather-lunged frontman has managed to survive and prosper, which perhaps shows us how little pull we actually have in the rock and roll world. The undeniable fact is that DuBrow played a major role in the advent of the West Coast metal scene of the early 80s, with the first version of Quiet Riot helping to introduce the late great Randy Rhoads to the metal kingdom, and the latter version making us all question our metal health, thanks to their sing-along covers of Slade classics.
Boo!
98, Joshua Todd of Buckcherry.
You crazy bitch.
Yes, so there's our first problem. Is Buckcherry a metal band?
No, they're more of like butt rock.
Yeah, they're basically like a Guns N' Roses style hard rock band. Like, their sound is very Guns N' Roses if you listen to those albums. So, Josh Todd has had what might be termed an interesting rock and roll career. From the moment he first burst on the scene in the late 90s with his band Buckcherry, this heavily tattooed frontman found himself immediately being compared to the likes of Tyler and Jagger, both for his vocal prowess as well as his large lips and lithe frame. With a little more luck, his brief run-in with Slash and Duff at a pre-Weiland version of Velvet Revolver might have cast him into the rock stratosphere, but these days, after a brief solo stint, he's back at the helm of Buckcherry and seems quite content with his lot in contemporary music life. And I'm sure that has not aged well, considering, you know, the kinds of things that the band went through with their lineup changes.
I do cocaine! I'm familiar with Ripper Owens.
Yes, 97, Ripper Owens.
Judas Priest.
Course. I might not love Ripper era Priest, but he's a great singer. He was great with Iced Earth.
Oh yeah, oh boy, don't get me started on Iced Earth.
Yes. Tim Ripper Owens has lived out every rocker's secret fantasy. This Ohio-born frontman went from the obscurity of performing in a club-oriented Judas Priest cover band to standing on stage with the Priest beast itself, a story that served as the prime inspiration behind the fictional movie Rockstar. Right. Yes, when Rob Halford split the Priest fold back in the early 90s, the band underwent a worldwide hunt for his replacement, uncovering an unsuspecting Owens in the process. The powerhouse vocalist went on to record 3 studio discs with Priest over the next 8 years before Halford's return rather unceremoniously cast him aside. Since then, he's performed with units like Iced Earth to widespread industry acclaim. So yeah.
That's a good first page.
Can't go wrong with that. 96, Wes Scantlin.
I'm very familiar with Wes Scantlin. I made a video on Wes Scantlin.
But metal? What is he doing on a metal list?
Post-grunge era. The dude is absolutely washed off. Don't go any detail, because we all know.
Yeah, I'm curious what they have to say about him.
Yeah.
In the here today, gone later today world of rock and roll, the incredible degree of success that Wes Scantlin enjoyed during the early years of this decade with his band Puddle of Mud is already fast becoming a faded memory. They're saying this in 2006.
I mean, they're already out of date then.
Yeah. How strange, back just a few years ago, the image of this handsome, blonde-haired, post-Cobain frontman who perpetually seemed to be wearing his knit ski cap seemed to be pervasive. He was dating supermodels, appearing with regularity on MTV, and was a constant on all the music award shows. Let's hope that it all wasn't just a one-shot-and-out deal, that Scantlin makes a strong comeback in the near future. Comeback.
Okay, 95, I'm kind of a little bit salty.
Yeah, 95.
Because Danny Filth is fucking awesome.
Yeah, Danny Filth.
I know some people don't like Cradle of Filth,
Yeah,
but I have always loved Cradle of Filth. They're They're an amazing band.
Yeah. Call him what you like, Danny Filth or the more conventional Danny Davey. There's no question that Cradle of Filth's esoteric frontman has come to represent a new breed of metal vocalist. With a well-developed penchant for screeching as well as singing, Filth uses everything in his considerable power to convey the dark, often disturbing music that fills COF's shock rock playlist. Shock rock.
No, a Cradle of Filth wasn't like shock. I mean, they were sort of shock rockish, but they were like early black metal, but they developed more onto the evolving extreme metal portion. So like, Venom, Bathory, that kind of shtick that Cradle of Filth now is in.
Yeah. On a string of best-selling Euro rock discs, Filth and his carefully chosen musical henchmen have explored a variety of unusual lyrical topics, ranging from blood-chilling fantasy images to down-and-dirty rock posturing. It's all made them continental rock royalty, with Mr. Filth serving as king. So, okay.
And now the guitarist and the keyboardist Zoe Fedorov are now engaged. So, shout-outs to them.
All right, 94 is Christina Scabia of Lacuna
I
Coil.
am very familiar with Lacuna Coil. Saw them with Epica back in 2017. They did great.
All right. For good or for bad, the fact is you can count the women on our top 100 list on one hand. Indeed, it's not exactly revealing any carefully guarded government secrets to state that heavy metal has always been almost exclusively a man's domain. Is this all they're going to talk about here?
Oh my god.
Just don't try to convince Christina Scabia of that. In recent years, this strikingly beautiful dark-haired songstress has helped lead her band Lacuna Coil to the top of the international hard rock charts. While this Italian unit's classically tinged metal opuses have yet to find a solid home in America, it's our bet that the group's exotic sound, teamed with Scabia's erotic look,
oh my god.
inventive unit deep in the hearts and minds of the metal masses.
They're already pretty popular. So.
Yeah. 93, Biff Byford of Saxon.
I'm familiar with Saxon. I'm just not big on Saxon.
Yeah. They're one of my favorites of the new wave of British scene. Yeah. How many other vocalists have managed the distinction of helming the same heavy metal band for 25 years, yet still not gaining household name recognition? That, alas, has been the ongoing tale of Biff Byford, who ever since first placing Saxon at the forefront of the new wave of British heavy metal in the early 80s, alongside the likes of Def Leppard and Iron Maiden, has steadfastly maintained his hold over that hard-rocking unit's musical path. Yet, for whatever reason, he has never managed to attain the kind of international recognition that traditionally goes hand in hand with such accomplishment. But despite his lack of high-profile fame, the long-haired Bifford seems quite content to keep lending his loudly and proudly metallic unit into the rock wars. In the process, continually producing some of the most entertaining bikers and leather metal albums of all time. Yeah, the early stuff, classic early 80s metal, so...
And then Saxon did a song with Amon Amarth not too long ago.
Yeah, and they're still going today, which is...
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're filming on my phone because Atticus's camera battery died, so wasn't what I was hoping we would do since he does have a really nice camera. So I figured we'd use his camera and my microphone, so whatever.
Press F, boys.
Alright, so now we move on to Phil Mogg of UFO.
I know of UFO. UFO was familiar. I was never in tune with UFO.
Yeah, some people consider them 70s, metal. I'm not one of those people. They are great, though. Rock Bottom is such a freaking cool song with one of my favorite solos of all time. The interplay between a vocalist and a guitarist often dictates a hard rock band's eventual success or failure. In the case of UFO, the often surly dynamics that existed between vocalist Phil Mogg and guitarist Michael Schenker proved to be one of that acclaimed unit's most recognizable qualities and most annoying characteristics. Who knows how much great music this immensely talented band could have produced if those two weren't so often depicted as being at each other's throats for a variety of ever unclear reasons. Still, despite it all, Mogg stands as one of the best second-tier frontmen produced by the 70s British metal boom. So, okay. Classic band in my opinion, but metal
No.
All right.
No, they're not even that metal at all.
Then 91, Stephen Pearcy of Rat.
Rat, familiar, not big on Rat.
They're a band that I really like, but they're not in a particularly great state right now with their lineups and whatnot. When the West Coast metal explosion began in earnest back in the early 80s, Rat happened to be the one of the right bands in the right place at the right time. That's weird grammar. With high-stepping frontman Stephen Pearcy leading the way in his skin-tight pants and flowing headband. bands. This pop metal unit made an instant impression with their sing-along anthems and good time vibe. Oh sure, some scalded alley cats possessed more range than Piercy, but his monotone vocal exercises somehow seemed to perfectly fit, and even occasionally enhance the guitar-laden exploits of his hard rocking bandmates. The thing with him is that he has one of the most distinctive rasps. Then 90, Ian Astbury of The Cult. Not a metal band. You see what I mean now. Every time Ian Astbury steps on stage, he's like a shaman casting a magical musical web upon his loyal following. Part Jim Morrison-like showman, in fact, on occasion he has stepped in among the surviving Doors members for a concert set. Part metal beat messiah and part long-haired hippie freak, during his distinguished run with The Cult, Astbury proved himself to be among the most charismatic stagehands of his generation, with the ability to mimic an almost plant-like banshee wail, as well as deliver a rugged blues-based timbre on a string of 80s hits. Astbury reigned supreme. 89, Dave Mustaine.
We all know Dave Mustaine.
Yeah. It's not surprising to me that he isn't incredibly high, considering he's not exactly known as being a really great singer. A great guitarist, but the vocals have often been the most criticized with Megadeth.
I'm fine with his vocal style. It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, like, it's distinct. It's not great, but I feel like the musicality of the rest of the band elevates it.
He's essentially the glue.
Yeah. Few people think of Dave Mustaine primarily as a vocalist, as the guitarist/songwriter/producer behind many, make that all, of Megadeth's biggest hits. Mustaine's role as his group's vocalist kinda takes a back seat to his myriad other responsibilities. But when all is said and done, the fact is that he ranks as a highly distinguished singer, someone with a unique sound that is as unmistakable as his band's guitar-driven thunder. Despite his well-documented past of stage problems, all of which thankfully now seem to have been cast in his rearview mirror, Mustaine's musical commitment has remained as strong as ever, much to the delight of his metal minions.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. 88, Justin Hawkins of The Darkness.
Yo, I believe in a thing called love.
Just listen to the rhythm of my heart.
Great band.
Yeah,
I
saw them live last October. They were really fun. I don't really think of The Darkness as being a metal band. Sometimes they get grouped in as being a hair metal revival band. I don't really see that. They've always been more of like a Boston meets Queen.
Yes, I have always seen The Darkness like that.
Yeah, like that said, Justin Hawkins, by all means, a great singer, just I wouldn't really consider him a metal one. In the span of just 3 years, Justin Hawkins has become the rock and roll equivalent of the man you love to hate on both sides of the Atlantic. Thanks to his precedent-shattering success with The Darkness, especially on their explosive debut disc, this fright-voiced frontman has drawn the wrath of the Euro rock press, as much for his often arrogant offstage demeanor as for his outrageous onstage wardrobe and falsetto vocal trappings. Yet despite it all, which includes temporarily leaving his band in 2005 for personal reasons, Hawkins' Freddie Mercury meets Tiny Tim style continues to enthrall millions, as it simultaneously serves to enrage just as many.
Yeah, I can see the correlation with Tiny Tim.
Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Number 87, Jamie Josta.
Jamie Josta, phenomenal vocalist of Hatebreed.
Yeah.
It's a crossover between metalcore and hardcore, but I mostly associate Hatebreed with hardcore.
Me too. I don't really have a problem with them being associated with metal, since they're basically like the ultimate sort of bridging gap between hardcore and
Jamie Josta, he is a phenomenal dude. I remember seeing Hatebreed back in 2013. They're an awesome band.
Yeah. So, as anyone with ears can tell you, these days there's a new breed of heavy metal vocalist at play, and Hatebreed's Jamie Josta may prove to be just the dude to show them all the path to the top. This multi-dimensional performer, who doubles as a part-time actor and TV host, most notably at MTV2's Headbangers Ball, has continually proven his metal, serving as a primary spokesman for hard rock's new breed, while proving his own value as a dynamic studio and stage personality. With Hatebreed on the apparent verge of international stardom, look for Josta's recognition factor to go through the proverbial roof in the months and years to come.
Every time when I think of Jamie Josta, I always think of that little Twitter beef with Chris Barnes.
Right.
If y'all remember my video, that was hilarious.
Yeah, he's a good ambassador. 86, Corey Taylor.
The man himself.
Surprised to see him this low on here.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but I mean, always loved Corey Taylor as a vocalist. Big Slipknot fan.
If this list was made these days, Corey Taylor would be way higher.
But what does Corey Taylor think about this?
I wonder what he did think about this. So, Slipknot's Corey Taylor admits that on occasion he positively hates the hideous masks he wears on stage every night with his not brethren. It's hot, it's restrictive, it's smelly. But the stitch-up face that Taylor wears has also become his trademark, right along with the powerful, surprisingly flexible voice that he brings to each and every not opus. But, as rock fans are well aware, there's more to Taylor than just being the frontman for Slipknot. He's also the vocalist in Stone Sour, the platinum-selling band that recently released their second album. Is it all too much for one guy to handle? It seems like it's all just a good day's work for this Des Moines native.
Nothing else to say. I always look to Corey Taylor as just a great vocalist. He's
For sure.
all around one of the best frontmen in the business.
Yeah, he's an awesome frontman. For sure. 85, King Diamond. I'm surprised to see him this low.
Why the fuck would you put King Diamond below that? King Diamond is an absolute fucking legend.
I mean, his voice may be a bit shaky and whatnot, but it's still just really incredible, just the notes he's able to hit.
Imagine Alice Cooper, but a little bit more
Spooky.
That's what King Diamond is.
Not in terms of vocal ability. His voice is a lot more high-pitched
His
than Alice Cooper.
persona, what he goes for.
Yeah.
Again, extreme metal.
Yeah. The first time we encountered King Diamond, the quasi-mystical leader of Merciful Fate, as well as his self-named solo band, was sitting behind a desk in his label's Los Angeles office and asking us if we wanted him to levitate a nearby lamp. When we politely passed on the offer, the king flashed us a wicked smile and a quick, good decision. The conversation soon turned to both Diamond's trademark black and white stage makeup and the heavy, occasionally screechy Euro-metal approach favored by the king and his court. That sound has made major commercial inroads through the continent over the last 2 decades, while leaving King Diamond little more than a cult phenomenon on this side of the Atlantic. They're not saying anything about his singing.
No. He's most known for his singing ability.
Yeah. 84, Jolyn Turner, who is best known for singing in Rainbow in the 80s.
That was one of Dio's bands, wasn't it?
Dio was the original singer in
Okay.
Rainbow, and when he left, when Richie Blackmore was wanting to take the band in a more commercial direction, originally they had, I keep forgetting, I can't look it up on my phone, I'll throw it up on screen.
Yeah, right.
But after he left, Jolyn Turner was brought on board. He also sang with Yngwie Malmsteen. He's appeared with Rainbow, Yngwie Malmsteen, and Deep Purple, among others, but if you weren't an ardent follower of the 80s metal scene, it's possible that Jolyn Turner may have slipped under your radar screens. If he did, it was your loss, because with his silky smooth yet powerful delivery, he ranked among that era's most consistent performers. Coming close to a breakout hit with Rainbow's Street of Dreams, Turner proved himself to be a frontman capable of handling that moose-abusing decades prerequisite power ballad, as well as more up-tempo material, and best yet, he's still out there recording and touring when the mood strikes him. Great singer for sure, not one that I feel gets the recognition I think he deserves. So 83, Dee Snider.
Dee Snider, all I can say, Twisted Sister, one of my all-time favorite glam metal bands. Dee Snider is an absolute unit.
Very prominent frontman for sure. And of course we also remember the
Tipper Gore shit.
Yeah, the PMRC Senate hearing. Let's face it, there's probably nothing more appealing than an unattractive man decked out in hideous makeup and, schmata. But for nearly 2 decades, Dee Snider rode that exact formula to fame and fortune as the helmsman of Twisted Sister, and it's our bet that he was laughing to the bank every step of the way. Sure, Dee knew how ridiculous he looked. That was the whole point of his shtick. Hey, 2 Yiddish words in 1 paragraph. He was a guy built like a football linebacker, sporting a real freight wig of bleached blonde hair, all crammed into an outfit best designed to show off his hairy legs.
Hairy legs.
That look, combined with TS's heavy yet often surprisingly commercial sound, was every parent's worst nightmare in the mid-80s.
Most people have that nostalgia saying like the 80s was awesome, but then you have to remember you had the Satanic Panic and then everything else in between, because we had all this cool stuff in the 80s, but you also have to factor in that you had all these people, especially with PMRC shit.
82, Dave Williams of Drowning Pool.
Yeah.
May God rest his soul.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
I can still remember when Drowning Pool opened up for Triple H on WrestleMania 18.
It's kind of weird seeing them on a list like this. This is an example of what I was getting at with they pander to a lot of the new metal audience on here, because Drowning Pool, how many albums did they put out? I know their first album was definitely out. I forget.
Yeah, and everyone always plays Bodies, but I am a black sheep. I would consider the song Tearaway my favorite song off that album.
Gruff, tough, and seemingly indestructible, it hit the metal world like a sucker punch to the chin when Drowning Pool's dynamic frontman Dave Williams died of an apparent heart attack while on tour with his band at the 2003 Ozfest. Following only a year after the DP Brigade's RanterInShades' debut disc scored big thanks to hits like Bodies, it seemed as if the sky was the limit for this Texas-based quartet, a band that ironically had caught the eye of a fellow tragedy-tinged Texan, Dimebag Darrell, only a few years earlier. Now both Dime and Dave live on in our minds with their music and spirit there to enliven us when our rock and roll souls need a lift. It seems like they're mainly only talking about his death and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's
the dude had
unfortunate.
potential, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
I mean, he did have a lot of potential. Again, it's just one of those bands I would say were like one-hit wonder.
A one album wonder, I would say.
One album wonder.
It's really just the first album that they did with him.
They always like associate with Bodies.
Yes, it's a good meme song. 81, Peter Steele, another may God rest his soul.
And the guy that continues to question my sexuality.
Yes.
I'm done. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, he is huge. I've seen like Finn McKenty say this about a bunch of people. I hate him because of how good looking he is.
We can all not forget when he arrived on Jerry Springer. By the way, rest in peace, Jerry Springer. You absolute madman.
He stands an imposing 6 foot 6 inches tall. He has a face that looks like it is a permanent mask of anger and a body that appears carved from granite. Indeed, Typo Negative's Peter Steele resembles a Schwarzenegger-style action hero as much as he does a rock and roll star. On top of all that, Steele's vocal style matches his striking appearance. Dark, brooding, and deep enough to match his thudding bass guitar notes. At times, his look and bloody kisses persona give him the aura of a modern-day Count Dracula. But this one happens to hail from the wilds of Brooklyn rather than Transylvania.
I mean, he does have that look as a vampire.
Yes.
But I mean, more of like an Adonis-style vampire kind of dude. But dude was...
He was great, yeah,
he
for
was
sure.
Freaking gorgeous.
Yes. 80, Ville Valo of h.i.m.
I associate Billy Vallow and him with Viva La Bam. That's how I got into the band.
For whatever reason, there are probably some of you reading our top 100 list who sincerely believe that hard rock man of the moment Ville Valo should rank near the top of our chart.
No.
I don't know anybody saying that. There are certainly others who don't even have a clue as to who this Euro rock god is. Either way, in recent years, Valo and his band h.i.m. have clearly been making some significant waves on both sides of the Atlantic, a fact that bodes very well for the singer's long-term future. But while there are those who believe in their heart of hearts that h.i.m. is destined for near-term greatness on the hard rock front, there are just as many who seriously question the staying power of Valo's interesting, if somewhat bland, vocals.
Stylings.
I don't see Billy's vocals as bland.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not like the biggest on him.
He had a good singing voice.
Yeah, I mean, I like Wings of a Butterfly. It's got a really cool riff. They're definitely a unique sounding band for sure.
79.
79, Jimi Hendrix.
What the fuck?
This is what I mean. Who considers Jimi Hendrix metal? Like, he's a great phenomenal guitarist, a guitarist that inspired so many of my favorite guitarists, but that doesn't make him a metal player. Just because he influenced a bunch of metal players doesn't make him one himself. No one associates him with metal at all.
This person must have not done a lot of research.
Yeah. One thing that I will sort of point out about his placement, I love how he's not ranked particularly high, because when you think of Jimi Hendrix, you praise him so much. You don't think of like, oh, he was a great singer, because his vocals were kind of like the least interesting aspect of his music. It's the guitar playing everyone remembers him for.
These people are tripping.
Legend has it that Jimi Hendrix hated the sound of his own voice. In the studio, after his brilliant guitar runs had already been laid down, he would carefully sequester himself behind darkened screens in order to ensure his maximum privacy as he battled to lay down his uniquely droned vocals. Over the years, legions of Hendrix admirers have grown to love the sound of his singing, a sweet, almost innocent voice that worked so well to communicate his spaced-out, often drug-filled odes. While his vocal style will always pale in comparison to his unmatched guitar greatness, he is often underrated by those who disregard the latent power of his singing style. But how does that qualify him as being on a list of metal vocalists?
Again, I have no idea.
78, Ann Wilson of Heart, another band that this is applicable to. Heart is great, but metal?
No!
Just because they have a song that I would say inspired the Gallop riff.
Barracuda.
Yeah. At the peak of Heart's commercial powers in the late 70s, there was perhaps no more exciting performer on planet Earth than vocalist Ann Wilson. Her amazing range, exotic stage persona, and inherent understanding of the hard rock form, nobody did a better Robert Plant takeoff than Ann, made her one of the style's first female stars, a woman who could go toe-to-toe with her male compatriots and more than hold her own. Over the years, while she may have lost some of her cutting edge, she and equally talented sister Nancy have managed to maintain their popularity as well as their place in the hard rock history books. Again, great stuff, but metal?
Yeah, you can probably tell that a lot of people didn't do their homework.
Yeah. Number 77, Dave Windorf of Monster Magnet.
Not familiar with them.
Me neither. They're a band I know of, but just never really listened to much of them.
Just never crossed my mind.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes, Dave Windorf is Monster Magnet, and conversely, Monster Magnet is Dave Windorf. As the writer, guitarist, songwriter, and occasional producer for this highly intriguing New Jersey-based hard rock unit that reached its greatest acclaim in the late 90s, Windorf's personal creative vision served to direct this band's assault on the senses. When it worked, which was often, it ranked among the best hard rock music of its time. When on occasion Windorf's ambition strayed a tad too far from its rock and roll course, major chinks could be seen in Windorf's metallic armor.
It's sort of meh.
Yeah. 76, Blackie Lawless of W.a.s.p.
There's a few songs I know
Yeah.
from W.a.s.P, but I've always seen them as a shock rock band that I never really paid that much attention to. When I think of shock rock, I think of Kiss and Alice Cooper.
W.a.s.P. was great. Lawless was great with them. He has another, really distinctive rasp. So what did they say about him? Next to Kevin Dubrow, and on occasion Don Dokken, no one has caught more flack from our poison pen over the years than W.a.s.P. main man Blackie Lawless. It's not that we don't respect Blackie, we do. It's not that we don't like the guy. We've had the chance to hang on occasion, and he's always been the consummate professional. It's just that his flaming codpiece persona, his fornicate like a beast lyrical sensibility, and his borrow from everyone musical mantra just so easily lends itself to outright derision, even if we attempt to deliver it in a somewhat tongue-in-cheek fashion.
What? What are you talking about?
But the bottom line is that old Blackie has done okay for himself, and while vocally he too often tends to bellow like a wounded water buffalo, we still find ourselves secretly dropping his latest releases onto our CD player almost as soon as they arrive. I love how they're kind of just making fun of him.
Comparing him to a water buffalo? Bruh.
I hate how they probably think that this was just really funny.
No.
You just wanted to make fun of me.